Well, hey everybody, it's a new week, so we're going to start a new video off here. We made a lot of progress on the house last week. We got the front wall built here, got a bunch of log work done, and I got the beam built for the ridge pole. So we ended the video last night with the ridge pole. We kind of slung it up in there and did a test fit. Well, we picked up some spray paint and got her painted today. And we're gonna get it set in there tonight, along with hopefully that front wall log and that front wall log. They're ready to go in. Just got to put insulation in the notches and in the flats there. So we're gonna have a lot of gain in the first couple minutes of the video. It took us all weekend to get to this point to putting these logs in, and it's gonna happen right now. Well, we have one bolt right now in the concrete right here, and the hole that we drilled was just a little off center, so last night it was really wanting to shove the post up against that wall. So Owen's gonna open that hole up a little bit so we got some wiggle room. We're gonna get insulation put in here, right in here, on the inside of the wall. All that'll be insulated. And I'm gonna get some insulation on the flats of these two logs real fast.
See how good you are, Owen. Let's see how good you are. Perfect. Whoa, dude, you're hired, brother. push it back a little bit.
Kind of stout. I guess the gas got.
Well, we got her in there. Everything lined up pretty good for the most part. When we bolted everything together, it kind of sucked both walls in just a little bit, and my notches aren't sitting really true right now, but I think as I add weight to it, I think it's just going to push down as I put the next logs on and get the rafters and stuff in there. And I'll start running screws in tomorrow. But it's definitely high. At first, when we first put it up there, it seemed way high, but it don't look so bad now that we got the log work in there. But yeah, it went pretty smooth. Kind of nerve-wracking when you're putting something that heavy. I think that beam weighs, it's over 1,000 pounds. But yeah, it turned out awesome. And for those of you that are new to the channel and don't really know what I got going on here, this is the log that will be sitting on that post. It was 36 inches on the butt. It weighs 6,000 pounds. It's a pretty massive tree for in the interior of Alaska. One of the biggest trees I've ever seen in the interior. Well, Miranda and Owen have been working on getting this tree pilled today. Looks like they are about halfway done with it, or a little more. So Owen's gonna work on that tonight. I was at work all day. The hardest thing about doing a project like this is getting motivated to do something when you get home. So I worked 12.5-hour shift today. I made myself come out here. I'm not gonna do much, but I'm gonna do something. And it's the only way I try to do an hour or two at least a day. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut these off where I gotta cut them off on both sides. Then I'm gonna come inside here and I'm gonna cut these guys off. Well, I'm not really sure how to make a perfectly straight cut, other than I've made a level line on this side at 22 inches from the wall, a level line over here, and I just put a brand new chain on my saw so it wants to cut straight. So I'm gonna hopefully make straight cuts, because you're gonna see this right when you walk in my door. So on these end logs, we got like 4 feet we're cutting off here. I'm gonna have Owen come in right underneath the log so that when I cut through, it doesn't just slam down and then rip a big chunk off of it. So he's just gonna have it right there. Well, I got a few days off of work. We're gonna get going on getting the top wall logs on. These top wall logs are gonna be pretty time consuming, and there's gonna be a lot of scribing. We'll actually have the whole long groove to scribe into these, which I haven't had to do any of that on this build, so and it's been a few years since I've had to do it. But well, when we put this post in earlier in the week, when we bolted it all together, this wall got sucked over just maybe a 1/4 inch that way, which kind of changed the way that it sits in the log sits in the saddle. So it's not really sitting in there right. I've got a couple options here. I could loosen the post and put shims in there, or I can just shorten the log. I think what I'm going to do is just try to run the chainsaw right through the center right there, and that'll let the log slide this way a little bit, which should allow the log to drop down on the saddle. Like you can see right here underneath the log, we are sitting tight against the top plate. And then when you get down here, I've got a little gap, and that is because this top log just isn't sitting down in the saddle where it's supposed to be. You can see I got a gap right there. So if I can push that log that way just a little bit, I think it'll drop into where it's supposed to be, and I don't have to unbolt the post. Well, Owen's gonna give the log just a little bump over. I opened the gap up here between the two logs that much on the inside and the outside. Hopefully that lets that log fall into place. There it goes. Perfect. Let's see if that did what we needed it to over here. Well, now that we got the log to slide over, I think we got it where we want it. But what I think's going on, it's still not dropping down to where it's supposed to be. You can see my scribe line right there. The log should be sitting pretty close to that line. We're about a 1/4 inch off. And what's going on is I put a little bit too much insulation in there, and you know, that part of the log should be sitting on this. It's being held up by this. That's rock hard fiberglass. So I'm going to try to cut it out with a fillet knife, because it is concave on the inside. So if I could just get it out right here, maybe it'll drop down. But if not, I'm going to have to pull this log off and cut some of this out.
More. Good.
So we're only 7 here now. And we were, oh, now it won't move because it's against the wall. Let's get the skid steer over here. Well, we got this log up in there. We're pretty much where we want it. What I'm gonna do, there's such a big gap there, it'd be super hard to try to scribe that. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna scribe 5 inches out of each one of these. So I'm gonna drop the log down exactly 5 inches, which will give me a 3.5 to 4 inch gap between the logs. So when I do all my scribing, I'm a little more accurate. So these are called rough notches, and that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, I got all my my rough notches scribed. I got a plumb line on the end of the top log, and then I've made some marks where I want this thing to go right back in there. So I think I'm just gonna try to cut the rough notches in up there. So I'm gonna roll the log upside down and then just stand on the logs and try to do this. So I don't have to take it all the way down. I don't want to take this log down anymore than we have to. So try to cut the notches up in there. hoisting up or booming up?
Hoisting.
Well, Miranda and I just ran the town and picked up the lumber package for the gable ends and the floor for the loft. So it's Friday night, so we figured we better go grab it just in case we get to that point where we're putting the floor in up here. So we just got, before we went to town, we got the log sitting in the rough notches. And I just got my scribe settings set up. There's still a good bow to this board, or this tree, that way, which is gonna make for a narrow groove, long groove right here, and a pretty fat one down on the end here. I've looked at it 20 times now and I can't figure out how to get rid of it because this top tree has got a bow to it and I just can't get it out of it. So it's gonna be what it is. I'm gonna start scribing this thing so we can get her set in there. Okay, I got all the scribing done on this log. We're gonna pull it down, get it in the blocks, chisel the notches, and cut the long grooves in it. it's 11:30. Can't work all night up here anymore without some light, so we're calling it a night. Just getting too dark to be able to see the lines, but we were able to get pretty much the majority of it done. We were able to sand out to our scribe lines because it was raining here for a while. That way, if it rains, my lines won't go away, but we'll do some cleanup on it in the morning and should be able to get it up there pretty quick. Well, we're getting back on it this morning. Here you can kind of see what I was up against yesterday. There's a little bow in the tree at the end and a little weird bow down here at this end. You can see how wide my long groove is on this end. And then down here we get to where we're only like 2.5 inches. I was really trying to not have anything this narrow for efficiency, but it's just a small strip there. I'll really pack the insulation in there when we put this up on the wall. I was shooting for more like a 4-inch, kind of like we got going in here, because I wasn't looking for gain on trees like you would if you were building a whole log cabin. So I was just looking for a bigger groove to pack full of insulation and have it be more efficient. Owen and I are going to get this finished up. It got too dark to work last night and everything was wet. So when it's wet, the sander loads up with sawdust and you're constantly changing the blades or the discs. But yeah, anyways, we're going to get it finished up here and up on the wall and then get that next one up there and scribed and hopefully done today. Was chiseled at a weird angle. Look at this.
Some high bush cranberries, and their leaves are turning red and going to be ready to pick here in a couple weeks. That's another sign of fall coming for Alaska.
Up. Stop. Stop him napping.
Well, Owen and Miranda are cutting away the excess insulation and jamming it up in there. We got about a 1/4 inch gap in my groove, so I'm getting hung up probably on the insulation. We're gonna do that all the way around and figure out where the hang up is here, but Owen's got football practice here soon, so we're gonna also try to get this log up before he has to go. So we might leave this for later, get that log up there, so while he's gone, I can do all the scribing to it.
Boom truck moved to the other side of the house so we could pick up the next log for the side, for the other side. So Owen's gonna push the log in so it's tighter to the shop building over where Scotty is.
Good.
You're good. Alright, so Owen's checking to see if the log is level. All right, Scott has it all level and where he wants it, and right now he's working on scribing all the rough notches. So here's one of the logs that is leaking a bunch of sap, and it's going all the way down to our concrete. Me and Owen were scraping the concrete earlier to clean it up. It's a lot of sap. And then Scott is over there scribing for the rough notches right now.
Sweet. Just do the rough notches and then just roll it right back in there.
I'm getting sappy. Stop, please. Scott,
Well,
I'm not all the way over.
okay, you ready?
Oh my gosh. How are we gonna get down? Why you have to finish?
Okay, so here's what it looks like when we rough notch. Like I said earlier, this is just quick, nothing technical about it. You just quickly scribe some lines. Basically what we're trying to do is close the gap down here. When I roll this log over, it's gonna sit on my saddle, and then I'll open my scribe up. It will only be like 3.5, 4 inches versus 6 or 7. So that's all we're doing right now. But yeah, you can see we hit every one of them. Some are bigger than others. That's just a little guy. It just has a little shoulder right here, but okay, now I'm gonna get this log rolled back on here, get it sitting perfect, and then I'll scribe the whole log.
So we're trying to get the logs level with each other, and we have a mark on this log and we have a mark up here that we got to get lined up before he can make the new scribe marks for the notches. I think that looks about good.
Oh, that's good.
I think so. And there's both
Yeah, that looks
marks
good.
lined up. Oh, it's back from football practice.
Okay, we got the log up there and rolled onto the rough notches. So what you can see is I got a pretty small distance that I'm gonna have to scribe here, so I don't have to open my scriber up very far to get my scribe settings. But what I do here now is you go down the log, you measure it. Usually you have a caliper. I don't have a caliper for whatever reason. I can't find mine. And you find your biggest opening in the whole log, all the way down the whole thing. And that just happens to be right over here, right by the door, which will make it kind of easy for me. What I do is I'll figure out where that widest spot is, which I think is right here. I'm going to set my scriber on this side and make a little line with it. Then I'm going to go on the back side, do the same thing. And this log is pretty straight. It's all within like 3/4 of an inch space all the way down. So I'm going to shoot for a 3-inch wide gap right here at my widest setting, or at my widest gap. I'm going to look for a 3-inch wide groove that I'm going to notch in the bottom right here, which should translate to like a 4 or 5 inch on the rest of the log. So if that makes any sense, I'm going for, like I said earlier, I'm going for a bigger long groove in here, just so I can pack a full insulation and have more log and insulation between us and 50 below. You know, recommended, I think 2.5 is like normal, but that's if you're doing it. Good. Here. So now Miranda will make go right here, Miranda. She'll make a little mark. You can kind of see my mark right there. This is harder than it looks. And she doesn't do it very often, so here, go the other way. I got a mark right here. Need to sharpen the pencil. Okay, that's good. Let me measure that. That is exactly 3 inches. So that'll be our setting. Well, I don't know if I've gone over what a scribe actually is. This is your more generic version. There's a lot of really cool ones out there, but I think a lot of people use these. It's called the Veritas Scribe. You can see you got 2 bubbles. It holds you vertical both ways. So right there should be pretty vertical one way. And then as you go, you just keep those bubbles as close to center as possible. So what I do, now that I got my setting that I want for the wall, I come to a spot and I just make 2 marks. That way I know what that setting is. Normally you would have 3 settings. You'd have your long groove setting, and then over your shoulders here, or your notches, would actually be like an 1/8 to a, depending on the wood you're using, you would scribe that an 1/8 inch smaller so that all of your weight is sitting on your saddles. That way when this log shrinks right here, that log will fall down on it and you're leaving a little bit of room. I am only using 1 setting, and what I'm doing is I'm cutting up to that line for my long groove, and then when I scribe, or when I chisel my notches, I'm chiseling to the inside of this just a hair. That way I got like an 1/8 inch is what I'm looking for. Hardly none of underscribe is what they call it around my shoulders. So I'm just doing it when I chisel. If I was building a whole log cabin, I would definitely not do it that way. I would start with bigger on the bottom and close that gap as I got higher. But anyways, that's a scribe. And that is what I'm actually doing when I'm up there. And the reason why I make these marks is in case I bump my scriber, I could come back and reset it to that setting. Right? What I do is I find a plumb wall. So this wall is level this way. And then I drew a level line on it. That way I could come over to it, put my scribe on there, and if you look down at my bubbles right now, you can see that I'm off a little bit, so I need to just make an adjustment so I can loosen this and adjust it, but I'm not going to do that on video because it's a pain in the butt. It takes a little bit to get this, so that's why, or that's how you plumb up your scribe, right? Right there.
Owen and his buddy are trying to straighten out the log that we just set down up there. It's a little crooked still. Scott got everything scribed for the notches, and I forget what it's called, but where the straight cut goes right here to fit on that log. He's got them all lined up, and we're taking it down so he can make all those cuts with the chainsaw.
Well, we got this tree done last night at about 10:30. We're out here this morning. Owen and Miranda are doing some picking up, just picking up the log chunks and stuff that are on the ground. But we're gonna start today off with a little, we're gonna ride over to my son's, all three of my sons' properties, show you the progress that they've had the last week. And my son Darren just picked up a new boat, exact same hull as mine, just shorter. We'll show you that, and then we'll get going on this, on our project. We'll get this log up today and start working in the loft area, but it is Sunday, so today will be our last day on this video. And I start my night shift again tomorrow, so another week of nights. So this is where Aaron is. He's been working a lot, so kind of hard for him to get a lot done, but he's getting all the foam up on the walls. He's getting the lid wired. He's got garage doors lined up, I think 3 or 4 weeks from now, or garage door, I should say. He'll have garage on the side that we're in right now, and then the house will be on the other side over there, the living quarters. So, okay, we'll head over to, I think Jared's. I think Darren is at Jared's, so we'll head that way. Well, we just worked out Jared's layout and where he's going to put a sewer tank. He's going to put that in the back corner there, and he's got power coming in, so he's got a lot to think about here, and maybe next week we'll come back and see where he's at. Okay, well, we got both logs sitting where we want them. So now what we're working on is I'm gonna cut a flat here for my loft wall to be built. Well, before I can build the loft wall, I gotta cut a flat in this log. So what I did is I just ran a 2x across the top of this, put a level on here, made sure it was level, and I transferred that line to right there. And then I did one down at the other end and I snapped the line. That is where my tongue and groove is gonna come across. Tongue and groove is gonna ride right on top of here, and it's gonna sit on top of that. Then I measured up 3/4 of an inch and snapped another line. That line is gonna be where my flat is. That gets cut all the way across, that my wall will actually sit on. This line right here is just gonna be a little 1.5 inch deep, 3/4 inch notch that my tongue and groove will get nailed into right there. So that's why there's 2 lines. The way that I transferred the line from the inside to the outside is I just cut with the chainsaw, kept brushing it down, put my level on, got it to where it was level. So now all I'm gonna do is go on the outside, snap a line from here down to a notch just like it down at that end. Then I'll be able to cut with my 044 with the rip chain, my flat. Okay, so that's what we ended up with. That went pretty smooth. I'll hit it with the sander, get her cleaned up just so it's a little more flat. This is the boards that we cut on the sawmill. Within the last year, we've just been cutting all the poplar trees down and running them through the sawmill. So we got a whole bunch of these boards that we just ran through. Some of them went through the planer. That's what they looked like before. Probably won't get any of that in this video of us installing this, but this is what it's gonna look like. It's gonna butt up right into there. We'll have that side down, and then we're gonna have our 2x8 wall with 1.5 inch of foam right on top of here. So we're gonna get the other side cut. Hopefully we could get that done tonight. And like I said, I start my night shift tomorrow, where I'm pretty sure it's just gonna be running, a lot of the week is gonna be spent running this stuff through the planer, getting them down, and then I got all the lumber to build the floor. The floor joists, the 2x6s, will go on top of this. So hopefully we get the floor built this week and some of the shed walls. But that'll be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you have not liked and subscribed, we need you to do that. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. And we will get some fun cabin trips in here in the future We just got to get a roof on this thing. We're getting into our rainy season right now, so trying to get the roof on this thing so it'll shed water, and then the pressure will be off. So a couple weeks, maybe we'll get a cabin trip in. See you guys next time.
So we're spray painting the rebar so they don't get rusty, and we're using the rebar to, what now? We use the rebar to tie all the logs together, and then after Owen, and we spray paint them to prevent rusting once they're hammered into the logs. We use rebar to stake the logs together, and we paint them to prevent rust from